Hello, my name is Brian McCormick. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Stroke of the Clock. Today's episode is going to be primarily focused on caregivers and what to expect from a person who suffered a traumatic brain injury and the challenges that that person has suffered a traumatic brain injury face. And I want to first of all thank all you caregivers out there. I know it's a hard job and it's sometimes seems thankless, but I can only imagine that the person you're caring for is immensely grateful. And I just like to thank everybody that's taking time out of their lives to care for a person who's had a traumatic brain injury. I'm going to be focusing on what I consider the three main issues that people who have suffered a traumatic brain injury face, and that's emotional challenges, physical challenges, and mental challenges. And
what are the emotional challenges?
Well, people who've suffered traumatic brain injury often have a hard time responding appropriately to sad situations or happy situations, and it gets better with time, but you'll often find that a person with a traumatic brain injury will laugh when they should be crying, will cry when they should be laughing, and that all kind of sorts itself out in time. But that's something that caregivers ought to be aware of, and it's probably really frustrating for a caregiver to have the person they're caring for responding inappropriately to different situations. But it does get better over time.
Brian, did you have heightened sensitivity after your strokes, or as you have listened to other people on YouTube, is that something that has come up?
Yes, I have heightened sensitivity, which, are you talking about like...
to noise?
Oh yeah. I have heightened sensitivity to noise and light. It's gotten better with time, but that's something that a caregiver should be aware of, is the person you're caring for might have heightened sensitivities to light and noise. So that's something that I definitely can have first-hand experience with.
Is it important for people not to be creating a negative environment for someone who has had a major brain injury or stroke?
That's a very good question, and I do think it's very important to have a positive environment for people who have had strokes or other traumatic brain injury. And one of the differences between a normal person, I'm not saying that people who've had strokes or traumatic brain injuries aren't normal, but a person who hasn't had a stroke or traumatic brain injury, they can deal with multiple things at the same time. I have found that after my stroke and brain bleed, I have had, if something happens negative in my life, or in a day, for example, and then I'll keep that in the back of my mind, then something else happens negative, and I'll keep that in the back of my mind, and I don't let the other things go. It just keeps stacking up until I eventually kind of just either crawl into a hole by myself or act out in some inappropriate way. But I think that's pretty common for people who have suffered strokes or other traumatic brain injuries to have a really very acute sensitivity to negative energy. So And it's challenging for the person caring for the person who's had strokes or other traumatic brain injury. But it is something that we deal with, and I want to let all the caregivers know that are out there caring for a person who's had these brain injuries. That's something to expect.
Well, is there anything else before we move on to physical things that you want to talk about emotions?
I just would like to say that people that have had a traumatic brain injury due to strokes or whatever the reason have a harder time controlling their emotions in general. So don't take offense to it if you're caring for someone who's had a brain injury. I can assure you that nothing's meant to disrespect the caregiver. I just, again, thank you very much for caring for someone who's had a stroke or other traumatic brain injury.
Well, we'll go ahead and shift now to physical. And have you noticed that you're having a hard time building your endurance?
Yes. Everything that after a traumatic brain injury or stroke, for whatever caused your traumatic brain injury, it's really tough to build endurance. I tire out very easily, very quickly, and I have to constantly be working on building my endurance, because if I stop for a week, I've lost a month of progress. So I think that it's very common for people who've suffered a traumatic brain injury to have a loss of endurance.
Now, besides having your left side affected, one of the most frustrating things for you is around your vision.
Oh yeah, those of you who have frequented my channel know that I've got a pretty severe vision deficiency, and that can be very frustrating because it limits my ability to. I can't read anymore, and I can't use a computer, so it really limits my ability, and that can be very frustrating for me. On a side note, I've recently purchased, or my dad has purchased for me, an OrCam, my eye, which is a unit that I'll be reviewing in the coming weeks, that it takes a picture of everything you look at and reads out loud the text you're looking at. So it reads cell phones, it reads computer screens, it reads anything that it reads a book. So anything that you want to read, it will read for you, and that's a fantastic thing. And I think that's going to change my whole outlook on my situation. So I'm really looking forward to reviewing that, and I'm waiting till I get a little bit more experience with it to make a video about it, but that's going to be coming. So
do you and other people who have had strokes or brain injuries and are on medications have like dietary restrictions?
Oh yeah, that's something else that I have, because of my medications I'm on, mainly chemo medication, I've become gluten intolerant. So my parents have to prepare gluten-free meals for me, which is another thing another real trying thing, and that's something that I have to deal with, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one, but it's just everything becomes more challenging when for a person who suffered a stroke or traumatic brain injury, and it becomes more challenging for their caregiver as well. So,
So Brian, what about being able to just take care of your daily functions?
yeah, well, I in the morning, I have to have my breakfast brought to me, and I have to get my toothbrush brought to me, and and I have to get bathed, and so it's very frustrating to not be able to take care of myself. I have to get someone has to do my hair. Thankfully, my dad here and my mother are extremely thoughtful and try to do everything they can, and they do a ton. And so I'm very fortunate to have the help I have, and I hope that other caregivers that are out there realize that I'm sure the person you're caring for is very thankful that they have you in their lives. So.
Okay, well, we can go on and talk about the third component, that's mental.
Yeah, I think that emotional, mental, I like to separate them out because not to trivialize post-traumatic stress disorder. I'm not saying that I do suffer from PTSD, and I'm not trying to say that mine is as bad as a person who's a combat veteran or someone else who's suffered really traumatic situations. But I do suffer from PTSD. Whenever I hear a loud noise, I jump, and figuratively, not literally, but it is part of my life, and so it's something that I oftentimes on my stroke recovery groups, people will say, why am I so scared all the time? Why am I uncomfortable most of the time? And I tell them, you've probably got PTSD. And I think it's common for anybody who has had a traumatic event in their life, where I had been in a coma for approximately a month, and when I came out of that coma, I couldn't lift my head, I couldn't move a muscle in my body. So that was my traumatic experience, and so I suffer a little bit from PTSD, and I don't think that really gets better with time, but I don't know.
Okay. Have you found any book or anything that has helped you?
Yes, I have. I found 2 books that I can recommend that you read. The first is called Rage, and that's a book that helped me deal with my anger issues, which is a very common side effect of a traumatic brain injury. I used to get very angry very easily, and it was no fun for anybody around me. And so I read the book Rage. It's all about controlling your anger, and that's an excellent book. And then I read, what was the book called? The Body Keeps a Score is all about post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's kind of just about your body keeping track of everything that's happened to you, and eventually you get to a breaking point, and it's about PTSD. It's mainly written, I think, about a Vietnam veteran, but and in that book they describe in detail about post-traumatic stress disorder and all the research that's gone into the causes of it, and what that means for people that end up having it. And so I would recommend that book to anybody. And also Rage is an excellent book for those of you who have found or are caring for someone that has anger management problems. It's no fun to have them, and it's no fun to care for someone who has them. So I would highly recommend that anybody who's caring for someone that has rage or anger management problems, to recommend they read the book read the book Rage. And for those of you who are you yourself are suffering from anger management problems, I would highly recommend you read the book Rage. It's excellent. So,
as people look at people who have had strokes or serious brain damage, and how it appears that it takes them so long to do the simplest things, what kind of concentration is required from a person with that?
It takes 100% concentration, no distractions. So that means that if I'm trying to walk, I can't have anybody talking in the vicinity, talking to me. If I'm trying to concentrate and someone's trying to talk to me, it really throws me off. So I can have a radio on or anything like that, but my concentration is broken easily, and it takes 100% concentration to just do the simplest tasks, like walking on my cane or any type of motor skills. It takes 100% concentration.
So you're trying to concentrate to get the right muscles to fire at the right time.
Yeah, it's amazing, because I, like many people, just took walking for granted. But walking's a highly complicated system of muscles firing the right order, the right sequence, and you pick your foot up, kick your leg. I mean, it's just incredible, all the steps that are required to even move your leg and take one step. And I was amazed when I was trying to relearn to walk, what that really meant.
Okay. Kind of the ability to process a number of things at one time. I know that I, as a caregiver, have learned to not bring up too many things about what we're going to do or questions about the day.
Yeah, and I can really be thinking about 2 or 3 things I'm going to do that day, but beyond that, I can't really think about 10 things I'm going to do that day, because it's just too much for me. And gradually, I'm able to think about more and more. But I don't know if it's just me or if it's common, but I suspect it's common. So, all the caregivers out there, you might want to, when you're talking to a person that's had a stroke or other traumatic brain injury, you might want to make a short list, and if you have 10 things that you want to do that day, you might say 1 or 2, and then after you do that, say 1 or 2 more. But I find that I have got a limited ability to think about multiple things.
Okay. Well, Brian, I think for people who maybe haven't been tuned into your channel and understand where you're at, I think just to let people know how long you've been working on this. How long have you been trying your level best to get better?
6 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to make this another talk about what happened to me, but I suffered I went through approximately 30 strokes. I've got pretty significant brain damage. I think that like 20 or 25% of my brain's scar tissue, so it's pretty significant, but it's taken me 6 years to get to where I'm at. And not to scare every caregiver out there into thinking that they're going to be dealing with this for 6 years. But I had a pretty significant brain injury, so it's taken me a long time to recover, and I'm still recovering. But you know, it's like I don't know how to describe it. It's like living my life through a mirror with cracks in it. My brain, you know, everywhere it's damaged. I had 30 mini strokes, so that means there's 30 spots in my brain that are, and they call it infarction, but it's a disturbance in electrical signals, and so that causes that's why I feel like I'm living my life through the reflection in a shattered mirror, because every time I start thinking about something, I can't think about that thing for long because the signal gets blocked somewhere, and that can be frustrating as well. But not everybody. I mean, hopefully I'm one of the very few people who have had 30 infarctions in their brain, and so I think it's pretty rare.
Well, that's about it, unless you have anything else.
No, I want to thank all the caregivers and all of you for watching. If you like my content, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel, and I'll be bringing like the OrCam video soon, and that's the thing that reads for me. And you know, I would encourage anybody to comment on anything that they want to comment on my channel. Leave a comment, and if you like my content, push the like button, please. It helps me immensely to be able to connect to other people. It helps the algorithm or something to do with YouTube, but it does help. And so I'd encourage you that liked it to push the like button. And really, if you don't like it, push the don't like button. I don't think they really distinguish between likes and don't likes. It's just all about communicating with the channel. So I would encourage anybody that wants to be notified when I have another video to hit the bell icon. And so until next time, I wish you good health and good day.